Hey quilters, it's Marianne, FontanaOriginals.com, and you can find me on Etsy, on YouTube, or on Facebook as Fontana Originals. So if you're looking, just look for Fontana Originals. Anyway, we're making a fun seasonal project this time, and my pattern is called the Happy Pumpkin Quilt, and I just think he's adorable. I'm going to be making him with 3-inch squares. However, my pattern will list the ability to different sizes. Using a 3-inch square, I'm going to make a 66 by 78-inch quilt, Happy Pumpkin Quilt. If I were to use a 4-inch, I'd get an 84 by 100, which is perfect for a twin size. A kid would love it. And I also can make smaller ones using a 1-inch square that only makes the wall hanging of 22 by 26. So whether you use a 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5, or square, you can make the Happy Pumpkin and just make a bigger or a smaller quilt. So let's look down at the construction. You'll see how easy it is. It's only 2 shapes, a half square triangle and a square. Placement is the key. So here is our Happy Pumpkin. This particular layout, well, you really can't tell, these were 4-inch squares, and this would finish at 84 by 100. We're doing squares. I've done 7 colors in orange, and I've got 6 or 7 black. They don't have to be the same number. You just have to make sure you make the correct number of squares. And then I have some half square triangles in the leaf and on the sides and in the face to get the detail in the corners. And that's it. Let me show you how easy it is to piece. The first thing we have to do before we can even start sewing rows together is obviously cut the fabric out, but make the black and orange and the black and green half square triangle units. Now I'm working with 3-inch squares. I've decided to use 3-inch squares because I'm going to use mine as a large wall hanging. I'm going to sew 42 sets of orange and black half square triangles together. No matter what size you're making, you're going to make 42 orange and black units, and then you're going to go ahead and sew 6 green half square triangle units together. I've stacked all my half square triangles with the green and the orange on one side and the black on the other, and I'm going to just string piece them all together. Now, in the green, I've happened to use all the same color green because I only needed a few pieces. But in the orange, I have a variety of different colors. They're all reading as solids, though. If you've noticed, I don't have any really wild, fancy prints because I want the pattern. I want it to look like a solid pumpkin, but I want there to be variety. So I've just used, I think, 7 or 8 different colors. And in the black, I've also used an assortment of colors. But these actually have little prints on them, which I thought were cool. But they all have little prints, so it's all going to read pretty much. Or maybe, yeah, that one's got little flowers on it. So most of them do, and I think I may have one solid black in here, but it's like a marbled black almost. Yeah, there it is, see? So it's really got, so they all kind of have that same tonal quality to them. So they'll all read as a black, which is, you know, what you're trying to achieve. So I'm going to just start piecing, and I'm just going to take the green. I'm going to do the greens just because they're at the top, and there's less of them, and then I'll change to orange, but I'm just going to keep stringing, and I'm always going to put my presser foot onto my fabric, especially if you're rotary cutting because you have those very sharp points, and the machine is notorious for eating those little points if you don't. So just 1/4 seam, and I stop with my needle down and my presser foot still on my fabric. I am not looking to see which color black I'm using on this. I'm just going to let them be scrappy. And this is a great way to use up scraps if you have them in the correct colors. Now, in this case, I'm just going to lay it right there and push it. And the reason I'm not lifting my presser foot up because it's already raised because it was sitting on the fabric. So I can just keep going. And again, I like to leave the presser foot on the fabric. It gives it just a little bit of a raise so I can go like this and slide this in there. See that? How easy it is? So let's sew these all together. And you will press them all to the dark side, and then we'll chat about construction. So I've pressed all the half square triangles. These are my green and black ones. And then these are all the orange ones in assorted colors, and the blacks are assorted and the oranges are assorted. And I paid no attention to which went with which. And now I've cut out all my squares. And as I said, for purposes of this demo, I am using 3-inch squares. And I'm going to need in the orange 187 and in the black 157, which is what I've cut out. So I'm actually ready to lay everything out into rows and sew them together. And here is my chart. I have 18 blocks across and I have 22 rows down. Now you would think that the easiest way to piece this would be sewing across in rows, which you are correct to a degree, but it's slower. This is 18 pieces across, it's 22 rows down, as I said. I'm going to put together the first 5 rows, lay them out, 18 assorted black, and then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put the green, put the rest of the black, count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a half square, put a green, put a half square, put a black, and I'm going to stack them in stacks. And what I've done is I've done 5 stacks. I've already stacked them. You can see I have them in, and I have them numbered 1 through 5, which is 1 through 5. And rather than sewing them across, I'm going to sew them down, because then they'll all be sewn together in the correct order. I won't have to sew rows. I mean, I will have to sew the other direction, but they will already be placed correctly. And it's faster to sew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 than sew 1, cut it off, sew 2, cut it off, sew 3, and then go to the next row. So I'm going to do 5 at a time as I'm going down and piecing them that way. And it may sound weird, but it'll be a lot faster. I've put together my first 5 rows, and as you see, I've put little papers on them, little sticky notes, and I've actually pinned them to the first square in each one because I will leave them intact just so I don't lose track of where I'm going each time. Now I'm going to pull these out of camera range, but what I am going to keep my eye on are my rows and my counting. And I'm going to refer to this as I sew these together and work my way down and then across. Now, not to confuse you, but it's actually fairly easy. And it's a lot of, as I said, it's a lot quicker. So let's just take the first 2. So I'm going to take square 1 and then square 2 because I'm going to sew them together. So I'll put them right sides together just like I was sewing the first strip. And you would sew any strip. Have my 1/4-inch foot. And I would sew. Now, instead of opening this up, going to the next one, I'm going to go to row 2, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the first piece and the second piece, making sure it's right sides together, and I'm going to slide it under and connect it to the first row just by string piecing and do row 2. And I'm going to stop at the end, and I'm going to set these aside out of camera range. But I'm going to take row 3, and I'm going to set it here, and I'm going to set the second square on top, and I'm going to add it underneath. I'm going to set row 3 aside. I'm going to row 4. Now, so far, I really haven't compared it to the chart because they're all black. But when I start getting into the colors, I'm going to look to make sure I have my count correctly. So this is 4, row 4. And I'm going to set it aside, and then I'm going to just do row 5. Now, I do not recommend you doing 22 rows. The reason being is things start to get tangled, and as you go across, they get more and more difficult to handle, and I find 5 is a really good number because you get a good rhythm going. With the 5, you string piece, and then, of course, when you're done with the 5th row, we're going to set that apart, and we're going to pull them all back, and we're going to start at row 1 again. I'm going to open this up. Now, if I look at my chart, I'm still working on them. There's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So all of them are going to have another black piece. So I don't have to be too crazy about it. I know, and I'm going to just add another one. Open this one up, go to row 2, take the top one. go to row 3, open it up, take the top one, row 4, open it up, take the top one from row 4 on your stack, and then we'll do 5. And so forth. It's all the same color. That's just because that's just the way it lays out on the chart. And then I will cut it off. Now comes the fun. Well, some of them. So you can open them all at one time or not. So now I'm going to go to 4. So I'm going to look at this and I'm just saying, okay, 1, 2, 3. The first 4 rows are black, and then when I get to row 5, I should have an orange half square triangle. So let's see if it works. I'm going to go add 1. Back to row 1. The next square in row 2. And if you notice, I'm paying no attention to which black I'm using. I'm trying not to put the same patterns together. But if it happens, I'm not going to rip it out. It's not that big a deal, because it's all going to read as black or orange when we get to that. All right, so I'm still on 4, so far I'm good. This is proving out. I'm pulling off my stacks, and so far they've all been the correct color, which has been black so far. Now here's where the proof comes in. Let's see if I did this right. Shape row 5, up there it is. I have got an orange. Let's just see which way it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go with the fat side. Can you see that? The fat side down and up, so to the right. So it has to go fat side down and up to the right, and I will sew it in. Now I'll continue to refer to my chart. Let's look at what we did. I will continue to refer to the chart. But this, I like doing this because I have 5 rows sewn together. And because they're a string piece, they're connected. You can see this. Let's see if we can back up a little. No, it's not going to let me back up any. All right, but I've actually got them together, so I'm going to do them in stacks of 5. And then I'll sew them together this way, one at a time. You know, sew this row to this row, then fold it over and sew the next row, and it'll be much easier for me to piece in the long run. It won't be as unwieldy to handle. And then at the very end, when I have these strips done, I'll just sew them together. So I'm on the last piece, and I wanted you to see I have the 5 all spread out, and I've been keeping my map on top. And as I've been sewing the rows, I've just been pushing them over. And I'm on the very last row, so I've been opening them as I go, and then just pushing them aside. So I'm going to sew the very last row on. And just simple, easy. And again, I've got my rows 1 through 5. And these were all black. It seems like the first 2 or 3 rows were just solid black, you know, the black squares. So I've just completed rows 1 through 5. I've sewn them all across. And here, let's open this last one. And I've used the colors at random. And you can start to see the pattern emerging. I think it looks kind of cool because it's like instant gratification, and you know if they're sewn together correctly. Because as you're working on it, you're piecing them down, you're matching them up, and I can see my stem is in. See, I've already got my stem on, and I know they're perfectly pieced because they're exactly the same as my pattern. So that's my first 5 rows. I'm going to go ahead and do some more, and I'll keep showing you. I'm on rows 6 through 10, and so what I've done, I've just folded the paper over because it's easier that my eye doesn't have to travel down all these columns to figure out where it is. So I just folded over the paper pattern, and I'm going to start, and I have 2 black and a half square triangle, and then I'll count these out. So, but just in terms of a tip, what I like to do is I'll put it on the side, and I'm just going to count out the shapes. So I have 2 black. Okay, and I'm trying not to have the same exact pattern together. And then I'm going to just mark it 6, because this is row 6 we're doing. And I'm going to put them face down as I do them. And then I need 1/2 square triangle that goes like this. I'm going to put it face down. Now I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 orange, and then another 1/2 square triangle. But let's worry about the 12 orange. And all I want to do is try not to put the same colors together. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm just kind of going through the pile looking for different ones. Oh, see, this is the same. Sometimes they happen, they get all stuck together. Look here. Look for some different ones. It's amazing you have 7 ones and you keep picking up the same one. Oh, that one's not even cut. 10, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And all right, that'll work. 1 and 2. So I'm going to just put them all face down. And I'm going to look and say, okay, they know the 1/2 square triangle and 2 black. So I'm going to take the 1/2 square triangle, and I'm going to randomly take 2 black ones, just as long as they're not the same. And then I'm done, and I have my row 6. I'm going to set it aside, and I'll layer the other rows exactly the same way, so they'll come out in perfect order each and every time. Here we are. This is row 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as you can see, we've got the pumpkin eyes going, and we can see they're all in the correct position. I really like this technique because you can see if one is wrong immediately. I've actually did one wrong, and I was able to correct it just as soon as I put it in because I could see it didn't match the pattern. So on to 11, 12 through 22. Now there's 12 rows left. So the next 2 sections I'm going to do 6 each. So the next section is going to be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. I finished all the rows, and as I said, I did 5, then 5, and then the second sections I did rows of 6. And you could see I've kind of laid it out on my quilt frame. I've just thrown it over one of the fabric bars because I wanted to make sure, and I can kind of look at it to make sure now that it's going all in the correct direction. I did have a few mishaps. I twisted a couple pieces around, but it was really easy to see when I put the sections up. And let me show you. I'm going to start down here. So let's look. Here is the first section, which is rows. And so you notice they're all connected. This makes it like really easy and you don't end up turning them around again. So that's the one. And this is 6 through 12. Okay, there's the eyes, right? Looks pretty good. And so this has to be oh no, wait, that's 6 through, what was it? 6 through 10. Yes, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 6 through 10. So this is 11. And there's the nose and part of the mouth. And this is 11 through 16. And actually, once you get to this point, you could probably take the numbers off. And then this is the last section, which is 17 through 22, which is the smile, the happy part. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew each section. I'm going to sew the rows together. I will press all of the even rows one way and all of the odd rows the other way so that when I put them all together, they will kiss and I'll get perfect points on all of them. Once all of the pieces are together in the sections and then I connect them, I will then press it. I am not going to do any pressing from here on out until the entire quilt top is assembled. And I'm getting ready to sew the rows together. I'm going to actually turn it so I can start at row 1. I'm going to flip it upside down, lay it out, and then all you have to do is fold the first section over. So you'll sew row 1, you will place 1 row on top of row 2, just like that. And I will have them here, and then I'm going to bring it over to my sewing machine. We'll see if we can't flip you around here. There you go. I have the 2 together, and I have to make a decision. It doesn't matter if you make the odd rows going to the right or the left, as long as you do them all the same way. So since I'm starting here, I'm going to let row 2 go down, and row 1 is going to go up. Now I have not pressed anything. If you notice, I just came over here and I went like this with my finger. I'm pressing that, pushing that seam up, and I'm going to then take this seam and push it down. And now they're connected, so you got to kind of put your finger between them, and I'm going to slide till I hit that seam and then hold this seam flat. And then I'm going to pull this up to match. I will always sew seam to seam. I'm not sewing end to end because I'm interested in getting perfect seams, and the ends you always sew in anyway. So I'm holding my finger where the seam is. I've matched it, and I'm going to sew to that seam and stop with my needle down right there. And then I'm going to go to the next section, and I'm going to gently lift this up. Now keep in mind, because we've sewn them together, there's a piece of thread there, so you're not going to really get all the way through, but I'm just going to make sure that seam is going down and this one's going up, and I'm going to give this a little tug to make sure they're kissing. Now you can actually go like this, and the whole seam across will kiss the one underneath. It's really kind of cool. And then all you have to do is sew to the next seam. Stop with your needle down. Go to the next section, make sure this is down, this is up. By now you'll get a rhythm, and you'll realize since you've got these perfect shapes you've cut and you've sewn the 1/4" seam, they pretty much kiss themselves. And I will continue every single time I do it to make sure the one is down and this one is up. And get them to kiss, and you can pull the one in the back down or the one in the front up if you need them to kiss, but you really want those seams to be tight and happy. And if you notice, I do not use pins. I don't find it's necessary. By the time I usually pin something and get ready to put it on the sewing machine, they've shifted. And also, as you very well know, you should never sew over pins. So why put them in to begin with? And you really don't need them, and it's faster this way. And everybody who knows me knows I have this need for speed. I like to sew quickly, efficiently, but I like it to look really good. So I'm always looking for the latest time-saving method, which actually, when you think about the way we're sewing these pumpkin pieces together, it was really quick and easy because you weren't doing 1 row at a time, you were doing 5 or 6, and it really helped actually with the pattern to keep, the design straight. At least I think it is, because when you see a pattern emerge, you know you're doing it right. Where when you're doing strips, sometimes it's difficult to, you notice how I'm just tugging this one to get them to fit and kiss. And so I'm going to finish this row, and then we'll talk about flipping the seams when we do the next one. So I'll continue on and be right back. This is the last one in the first row. And I'm just going to open it so you can see. I got them matched up all the way down, the whole row. And the seams are pretty spot on. See? One's going down. You can actually see this looks a little thicker than that one does. But the way they all kiss. See? good seams. So we'll go all the way to the end and we'll start over. And I'm going to open rows 1 and 2, and I'm going to place them on top of row 3. And I'm going to continue that way, even though it may seem awkward at the end to leave the one thin piece at the bottom. And I do that to make sure that my seams are going in the correct and opposite direction. So when I fold this over, I'm going to have a pattern that I'm going to follow. And in this case, I'm looking, this seam is up and this is down. So then I'm going to follow that sequence all the way down to make sure the bottom seams are down and these are always up. And I will continue sewing that way and doing row after row and just flipping them as I go. Now I'm going to make the border. And for the size I'm making, I did the 3-inch squares, and I'm going to make a 4-inch border. So these are 4.5-inch cut strips, and I am cutting 8 of them. If I was doing the one on the pattern, which is 4-inch, which is a twin size, you would need 6-inch strips, which would be 6.5-inch cut, and you would cut 10. The rest of the sizes and the information for the king, the queen, the miniature, and all those are on the pattern. So let me go put these together. I want to show you because we're going to miter them, and it's really easy to do it. So I hope you do, because it really makes a world of difference in the pieces laying flat. I always want to miter the edges, and I will take one strip going this way, one strip going this way, right sides together, always, 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 and forever. Never do it any other way. Right side up going left, top side going facing down, going vertical. And you will twist it and start at one corner and put your foot down and take 1 or 2 stitches. That's all you're going to take for the moment. The trick in making a perfect match or a perfect seam from here to here is not to look at the needle, not to look at the foot, but to look at where you're going. And I actually hold my finger here, and I'm going to start sewing, and I'm going to just look at where I want to go. I can't even see the needle. Just going where I want to go, and look at that. Did you see that? Look how close I am to perfect. Look. And there it is. Now normally I will go ahead and chain these together, but for now just let's look at this one to see how it looks. So look, I think that's pretty good. Nice and even. You will always do the same exact layout, the same process. So I will take another piece, face up to the horizontal, and that's the one we just sewed together. Here's my seam, so I'm just kind of moving it along, starting at the next piece, laying it down exactly the way I just did. And if you notice, I've left the selvage on. I do it because I'm going to cut it off later anyway, and it's easier to piece it to me. It's a bigger piece, and I have a guide because of the white printing. So down 1 or 2 stitches, make sure. And the thing I like about leaving the selvage on, you can see if this is even then. It makes it easier to line up. So let's just back up a little. And I'm going to go ahead and look at my destination. And I will tell you 9 times out of 10, I nail it. So I'm going to leave this now attached, and I'm just going to, and I'm going to take that same piece. That's this piece here, and I'm just going to turn it over. I will go get another one. And I will lay it out exactly the same way, always. Right side up horizontal, wrong side, right side down, vertical. Always, always. And I will put the little crease there where the 2 pieces meet, right by the needle down, get a few stitches, put it down, and start again. So why don't you go ahead and finish these. I will go ahead and do this to all 8 strips. Trim the bottom off, and then I will press the seams open. So here we are, I'm done. I've put on the borders, and these are 4.5-inch borders that I put on the 3-inch squares that I made. The border sizes are different depending upon how big a quilt you make. But this one's pretty big. This is the one, as I said, I made with the 3-inch squares. You can't see the whole thing, you can see the top. And I'm gonna get out of the screen and I'll pan down. This is the one that's finished. Now I've decided I found a really nice continuous line embroidery with bats in it that I think I'm gonna use for the I'm not gonna do free motion quilting. I'm actually have my programmable software on my Bernina, my Qmatic, and I'm going to go ahead and let the computer quilt this for me so I can get on to another project. So let me just pan down a little. If I can, you can see its face. Let's get back at it. I don't know if I can get back at it. It doesn't really let me, you know, and then I'm not a photographer either, so I do the best I can. So there it is. And that is the twin size. No, it's not actually the twin size. This is the large wall hanging, and there's also a twin, a queen and a king that's bigger. I hope you like it, and this is my happy pumpkin, and happy Halloween to you all.